Hello, I'm Ava. I'm here with John O'Brien, publisher and editor of iIrish magazine. So just to start off, how did you first get involved in the Irish community?
I don't think I had a whole lot of choice. My dad has been heavily involved since he came here from Ireland. We've always been active in it, and he's very much preached uh, being active, not just talking about it, but showing up, going to the IA, the Irish American Club to clean up, uh, showing up at events, volunteering, whether a dance or tickets or whatever it might be, helping with that. He became president about 25 years ago, something like that, of the West Side Irish American Club, and he still is today uh, at the age of 90. So it's a lifelong commitment for him. It's been a lifelong commitment for us. Uh, Involved in that, he started Cleveland Irish Cultural Festival back in 1982, and we grew up with that, volunteering. You know, he walked into my bedroom one day and he said, "Johnny, we're starting a festival. You're doing the parking." I'm like, "Wait, well, slow down here, Papa." That was always his style, drop something and head out. And we did. 1983 was the first Cleveland Irish Cultural Festival. There were 36 of them. And then we stopped for 3 years with COVID. And then it returned last year for the first time. So hopefully it's another generation now. Third generation are heavily involved in it. My nieces and nephews, his grandchildren. So it really became a part. The music became a part. I always remember that if we woke up on a Sunday morning and we could smell bacon, we knew that Dad had brought the band home from the dance the night before. And that was when we had bacon most often, and it was. And so you get up for breakfast, and there'd be 2, 3, 5 people around the table that we generally didn't know until we got older, and then started going to the dances ourselves. But it really was a great immersion, and we weren't aware we were being immersed. We thought everybody was Irish until we got a little more into high school than grade school, because I went to St. Mel grade school, which St. Mel was the nephew of St. Patrick. Became bishop there after St. Patrick moved on. So we just always was, and most of the kids were, a lot of kids were anyway of Irish descent. And that neighborhood I still live in this neighborhood called West Park. It's still very, very heavily Irish populated. A lot of cops and firemen and judges and elected officials, and so it's really maintained that, which is kind of surprising for this length of time. But it is very heavily filled with firemen and policemen and such. So we always were part of it. And it really wasn't until I got to high school that I started to, hey, nobody has this kind of immersion like we did, or not many people, certainly in Cleveland. I am the last first generation in Cleveland. They're not coming from Ireland here anymore. My parents were the last one to come, and ours is we won't see that in our group. A few people, a dozen a year maybe, but not in huge numbers like they were seeing in my dad's age, when the Ireland was in bad shape, huge unemployment, and immigration was still very prevalent. He took a roundabout way. He went to Montreal first, met my mom there, whose folks are from Dublin, and then eventually they asked if he would be interested in going to Cleveland. They knew he wanted to go to the States at some point. Would he go to Cleveland, and would he help the Gaelic Athletic Association, or the GAA in Cleveland, get restarted and work with Henry Kavanagh? And he did, which is, if you ask him, why did you come to Cleveland? It's because they asked me. It wasn't a real plan in our sense. He just wanted to go to the U.S. at some point, and he did. So we were always immersed in it.
And why do you feel that, being involved in the Irish community is important?
I think being involved in any community is important, no matter what your heritage is. There's been a bit of a movement to remove the dash. That's probably a 100-year-old movement, but instead of saying Irish American or Italian American or Chinese American, to just say American. And I understand that concept. We should be very proud. We always say we're American Irish rather than Irish American. We're here first. We were born here. We're American citizens. We contribute, not even on hard things like taxes and those kind of things, but we also contribute in our active involvement. So I think that the root connection, if I'd been born Chinese, would I be as involved in the Chinese community? Probably. That's what it feels like. But, my folks are a big part of that, both heavily involved in the authentic ways, with music and dance and the cultural end of it. My dad's a pioneer. He's never had a drop of alcohol in his life. He's 90. I think that, that stereotype of the Irish as being drinking, fighting people, that's fine if that's what you need. But the stereotypes never go over well, and they're never true. So we try to stay away from that. And that was one of the reasons we called it Cleveland Irish Cultural Festival, to be authentic. And it is authentic. You won't see some of the things that you might see, on the halfway to St. Patty's Day parties or that kind of stuff. There's no green hair. green beer, freckle contests, those kinds of things. They're all fun things. And you can't take yourself too seriously. But when you're talking about an authentic event, that is really carried over. That's probably a guiding principle of the paper. Paper started 16 years ago. We just finished our 16th year with the December issue. That was the guiding principle. And I think that's one of the reasons why the paper has been successful, is because we are authentic. People know me in Cleveland. I've been around a long time with the festivals and sports and growing up here, and schools and all that, and been involved in all of them. So the credibility factor with that, the authenticity, I think really went a long way toward helping us get established, and still continues today.
And what caused you to first start that monthly publication?
What caused me to do it?
Yeah.
I had broken my back, severely damaged it. I had rheumatoid since I was about 19. So I was having some trouble with it, but then I was playing broom hockey, whatever you might call it. And I got lifted off my feet, and I came down directly on my spine, on the tailbone, and did a lot of damage. There was already some damage. I had some scoliosis in my back, but that was made worse, obviously. And I fought that for a long time, and I kept going to the doctors, and they're sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. And, a decade went by, 12 years went by. And I just, every couple of years I'd go back and just check. And I went back, and doctor came in who I had, knew to me and knew insurance and all that. And he looked at it, looked at the X-ray, says, yeah, I can fix that. Like not being dramatic. He just said, yeah, very matter of fact. I was silent for a little bit. Nobody's ever said that before. I just expect him to say, there's nothing I can do some more exercises, but he was straight on and not cocky, but just very confident that, yeah, no problem. And he said, yeah, and you got a small bit of scoliosis in the back. I'm going to fix that too. So what they did, and what he did was he grafted bones off my rib and put them over each of the discs, which no longer existed. They had all been ruptured or herniated, whatever the proper term is. And grafted over those, and put 2 titanium rods, 1 on each side, and screwed them into my spine with 19 screws. And he was very straightforward. He said, you will be miserable for a year. Second year, you'll start to notice some lessening. Third year, you start to feel yourself on the way up. And fourth year is where you're going to be as good as you're going to get, barring other things. And honestly, Ava, he was dead on. I mean, it was not, to the T, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. It was the most pain I'd ever been in. And now it's 4+ years later, it's 4 years in June. So grateful that I did do it. I don't remember most of the misery, in that sense. That passes by very quickly. But I am walking. I just had my knee replaced, so it slowed me back a knock. But compared to where I was 5 years ago, not even close. And I'd recommend it. You hear so many bad stories. I had a great story with my back. I've had a great story with my knee, as far as pain is concerned, as far as the recovery and realistic expectations. I was very fortunate. So I was sitting there doing nothing with the back, and I started to write. And I'd always written small things, eulogies for people and those kinds of things, but I'd never done it as I don't want to say a profession, because back then it wasn't a profession. But I wasn't working with the back, and I wrote a book called Festival Legends, Songs and Stories. And it really is based upon the festivals, but the performers at the festivals, people that I got to know, the legends, the godfather of Irish music, Tommy Makem, Liam Clancy, Danny Doyle, the Dublin City Ramblers, people who had made a significant impact in the ballad boom, especially from the 60s on forward, but that took Irish music, like Tommy Makem and the Clancy brothers, took Irish music from a kind of a behind-the-scene pubs things in Ireland, people, and then people think of it as the diddly-dee traditional stuff. It's so much more than that. That's a part of it. Certainly, that goes up to the traditional music, and then the ballad boom came along. But Tommy Makem and the Clancy brothers were on the Ed Sullivan Show in America, and that was 80 million people watching an episode every Sunday. They were on there for a couple of episodes. They went to an episode to do their same type of thing. I believe it was the third one, but I'm not positive of that now. Third out of 4 that they were on there. And Minnie Pearl didn't show up. And Minnie Pearl will have no memory for you, but she was a pretty famous comedian, quirky and funny, and weird hat on. And she was on Hee Haw Show as a regular. But she was supposed to be on, and didn't show. So the producer walked out and said, guys, I need you to do a little bit longer. And if I remember right, it was 14 minutes or 16 minutes. They did 4 songs, and people in Ireland took note. Well, if these guys can go to America and appear on this show and be wildly accepted and loved, maybe we need to relook at our music and the ballad tradition. And Ireland and the ballad tradition, that was their storytellers, what they call bards, or shonackies, an Irish word for storyteller. They really changed the face of Irish music in Ireland. Not as much in America. America had already been accepted, and the nostalgia factor of the Irish is well known. We like our memories, but we also have to say, hey, these guys made a huge difference. Them and other people like them. The Dubliners and Luke Kelly with the Dubliners and Paddy Riley and so many of the people that I grew up with appearing at the festival that I knew. And that's what led to the first book. The first book was then I was going around doing book signings, and I went to the largest Irish festival in North America at that time, which was the Milwaukee Irish Fest, and did a book signing there. And a friend of mine who writes for Irish American News in Chicago said, we would like to do paper in America. I know just who call, here in Ohio, rather. And so he called somebody, just we're driving along, he calls somebody, hands me the phone. He says, Cliff, you want to start a paper in Ohio? I got your guy. And he handed me the phone. I'm like, who is this? This is Cliff, the publisher. Oh, so talked to Cliff for a while. That was in August, I believe it was. And then we met in October, and we launched the Ohio Irish American News in January. At that time, we were Ohio Irish American News because we were just in Ohio. Now we're in 6 states and plans for 14 total, probably. And so once we stepped outside of Ohio, we became iIrish. Didn't make sense to say Ohio anymore. And that's we expanded to Pittsburgh and all the states that are touching Ohio, except for West Virginia. And no offense to West Virginia, we just haven't gotten there yet. We hope to. So one thing led to another. The books led to the paper, and the paper led to and so on. So been very, very fortunate, despite all the health issues, to be able to turn that forward. And it's really worked out to be like I said, we just wrapped up our 16th year.
And what do you see for the future of iIrish?
I think we're still in a pretty difficult time. Here in Cleveland, the local paper, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, a few years back went down to 3 days a week, print edition delivery. And actually that was a boom for us. I mean, immediate boom with advertising. And we are 100% advertiser driven. So that really helped a lot of people who maybe didn't want to advertise there or had whatever reasons, they came to us. So that really helped. The credibility of the paper has really helped. Being able to look towards the future. Our goal right now is 14 states, Cleveland to Clearwater. And there is a reason I picked Clearwater. A good friend, my best man, all those good things, lives in Clearwater. He used to live across the street from me for the first 18 years of his very funny life. And then he moved to Clearwater. I go see him every February-ish. And so that's where my hope is that I retire to. But the more immediate concern is that Januaries in Cleveland are not as nice as they are in Clearwater. So establishing our office down there, having an office in Clearwater, an office here in Cleveland is our plan going forward. We continue to expand even within the paper. We've added a lot of staff. We're up in the 30s now. 20 something columnists and support staff, of course, has grown up and included that. And I like being able to help people being the first. So the first to have a band perform at a festival. We've done with a lot of band. First to have somebody writing for us. So there are a lot of younger people writing for us. And that's a concerted effort. We are trying to get younger and younger. I mentioned the last first generation piece of it. I believe that we have a responsibility to help those. People help me, raise me up. If it hadn't been for Shay Clark in Chicago that took me around, and Cliff Carlson that put a lot of faith in me to start a paper in Ohio, I wouldn't be where we are, and hopefully seeing the light of day for a long time to come yet. But there are a lot of goals, and they do evolve some. But our goal really is to continue to be an authentic source of information about the Irish. And if you look at Cleveland, that became very similar to me as I looked at the other cities going down south, with Clearwater in the back of my mind already, but saying there are an awful lot of things going on and nobody's talking about them in the smaller communities. Boston, New York, Chicago, they all have a huge community that continues to be refreshed. Cleveland doesn't have that anymore. And I bet there are a lot of other cities that don't either. So when we talk about our expansion, we don't look at New York or Boston, or they're already taken care of. We're looking for the communities that have a high active Irish participation. So it's not just, John O'B's pub with some green lettering. It's active Irish community. Do they have live music? Do they have Ancient Order of Hibernians organizations or ladies organizations in their community? Do they have Irish football, hurling in their community? Is there a lot of live music that's generally Irish based? Irish is a very broadening term now. It's world music because it's changed so much and continues to evolve, and it better evolve. If it doesn't evolve, it dies. And the same thing with the paper. If we don't evolve, we die. So that made us look to go wider and longer. But really, I could see right from Cleveland to Clearwater, if you go down the states, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, right all the way down into this, and then into Florida. There's 14 states that I identified as having high active communities, and we'd like to go in there. It's going to be longer than I wanted. I would like to, by the end of this summer coming in 2024, have been in a few more places, but that's just our reality. We have to do that slowly because we are running just on advertising dollars. And if I were to walk into Buffalo today and say, "Hey, take an ad," they'd be like, "What?" They don't know what that is yet. So we have to invest heavily first, show our credibility, and then say, okay, these guys are legit. They're not just sitting here trying to get our ad money. They're investing in the community. We've given over $375,000 to local and national charities since we started in 2006. That number I haven't done 2023s yet, but that's going to add another, something to it. It's really important to do that. And not everything that we do makes money. Doesn't have to. Supporting the community, that's making money in a different way. It's making good, whether it's dollar related or not, doesn't matter. Are we helping the community? At the end of the day, is the community better off because we were here? We traded a day for it. Is it? So that's my long speech.
It's a fantastic goal. It's got to be amazing to sort of watch the growth of the paper over the time. So just how would you describe what it means to be Irish?
I think the biggest thing is involvement. And I know other cultures are like this too. The Hispanic community, the Italian community, they're remarkably like Irish, and people just step back and look remarkably. But it's involvement, and it's active involvement. It's not just talking about it. It's easy to complain, and there are more than enough people willing to do that. But what are you going to do about it? And not everything is conquerable, but one step at a time, an awful lot is. So we want our legacy to be that we made a difference, that we helped people to enjoy life, if you want to break it down to that simple stuff, with pushing heavily on and sponsoring. We sponsor local Irish football club and hurling club. We sponsor scholarships, several scholarships around our community. So it's giving back more than getting. And the getting will come. And we've been, like I said, 16 years, we've been so fortunate. But it's a giving back that we remember, and being at events, helping, see them be successful. I was at a Black Friday fundraiser for the Bluestone Hibernians on Friday. I think it was Friday, Thanksgiving week. But it was fantastic. And there's so many people there that some I knew casually, some I got to know better, and just sitting around talking. Great music, and food was great. Just real simple but fun stuff. And it was a fundraiser. So hopefully our involvement in pushing it. One of our writers, Francis McGarry, is one of the leaders. He's one of the founders, and is one of the leaders in the Hibernians there. He writes for us every month. He and I are doing some other projects, not necessarily related to the paper, about Irish research and history and that. But the people I've met along the way, both internally with writers and externally with just people you come into as you're doing stories and that, it's just been such a way more blessings than I could ever have imagined.
And I'm just curious, where does the name Hibernians come from? What is the origin behind that?
Sure. Hibernia used to be Scottish kind of name, referred to the Irish. And people say, oh, it's over Hibernia. It's an area. The Ancient Order of Hibernians was an organization many years old. It's the largest Catholic organization in America. It is geared towards, back when it was organized, in protecting people who were being thrown off their property, being evicted, some during famine and some not, and through some of the troubles. before the Troubles came along, before the 1916 Troubles. There's, the 1980 Troubles were more well known, called the Troubles. But I don't want to get into all that. That's an hour interview. Just the Hibernians are an organization that was geared to help those who were being abused by the British Authority in one way or another, evicted, thrown out on the road, starved to death. And that was even before Black 47 and the Great Famine and Gorta Moore of 1845 to 1850-ish. Were massive amounts of Irish left Ireland because they were dying if they stayed. Starvation was rampant. Dead bodies by the road was not an exaggeration. They hopped on the coffin ships to travel, to go wherever they were. And that's how so many Irish now are around the world. A lot came to America, some went to England. They just wanted work. That's all they wanted. They weren't asking for a free gift of anything. They wanted work. And the No Irish Need Apply came out of that, especially in America, but I'd say in other places too. And it was literally signs in the window of shops, No Irish Need Apply. They didn't want them. In America, I'll only speak to that because I can't speak to the other countries well. But they were told, get lost. We don't want you. And they were viewed as property. They were just, they're expendable. We don't care. If a few Irish die while we build a railroad or dig the canals, who cares? There's more coming. And there were more coming. That part was true, but they were not expendable like that, and they were treated that way. That really changed the world because they're Irish. You can go to Japan, you can go to New Zealand, and you're going to find some Irish pubs. They are all over the world, and there's some music that kept people together. Some music that brought them together. There's stories in every city of how somebody from Ireland or two people from Ireland from two different villages came to America and met at the local Irish club and got married. They didn't meet in Ireland, and all of Ireland would fit inside Ohio. It's not a huge country. People would come to the U.S. and somebody would sponsor them. They'd come here, they'd work their butt off, continuously sending money home. They knew back in those days they were probably never going to see their parents again, or their brothers and sisters maybe. But they try to raise money, save money, send it on home, and one by one they bring a brother, a sister, or whoever here, and that happened generation. I'm quite sure that's true for the Italian and Spanish and many other places as well. So our immigrant stories have a lot of similarities. But for the Irish, which I can speak to, it was the hope of a future that made them leave Ireland. More than 1 million died on the coffin ships. The ships were stacked literally 2, 3 to a pallet, and another pallet, another 2 or 3 people, and another pallet, maybe 5 people. And if they had enough food to get here, they did. If they didn't, they were thrown over the edge of the boat when they died. And there's a mass graveyard in the ocean for the Irish that didn't make it. Remember that they were coming here as poor people. So they were choosing to immigrate because, hey, I got some money, I want to go to America. And that day, the American dream was, much more prevalent than it is now as a thought. But they had no choice. If they stayed, they died. And they sometimes gave some relief if they left because now there was one less mouth to feed. And that was important in Ireland when you only had an acre and you only got to keep a tiny percent of that. The rest went to the landlord, and oftentimes in lands that they previously owned. They owned the land. It was taken from them as they were subjugated and then being charged rents, which kept escalating. And at some point in time, there was a turning of thought process where they no longer wanted the tenants. They wanted to turn most of Ireland into grazing land for cattle because there was a lot more money in beef than there was in Irish immigration and potatoes. So there was an active process of flooding parts of Ireland, especially from Scotland and places, rewards for good work, for being a soldier and doing good things by their terms, not ours. Got you land grants. Didn't matter if there's somebody already living there. They were expendable. Get them out. So land changed hands. The con it or to hell, get off the land or die. Slavery. Many convicted, depending on what they called the crime. Somebody stealing an apple could get life in prison. Even if they're hungry, it didn't matter. And life in prison was sometimes in Barbados as a slave, or sent down to Van Diemen's Land in Australia and live on a life of slave labor there. Because they didn't think if you got sentenced to 25 years, they didn't think you're going to live that long. So it didn't matter. And that's why the Irish are often told to be so involved in music and stories. And, they didn't have television and movies and those kinds of things that we had much earlier than they did. So their stories were their history. Some of them, there was a long period where Irish weren't allowed to own a business. They weren't allowed to go to church. They weren't allowed to learn to read and write. They weren't allowed to own land. So those things, gradually push them down, push them down. It's a form of euthanasia. Push them down, push them down, push them down. And by then, if they haven't died, well, they'll screw up trying to steal some food for their kids, and we'll ship them off to Van Diemen's Land. And so it was an active effort to push the Irish out of Ireland and get in England to take that over and use that as a mine, whether it be for food or for cattle or for whatever else. That really, they ended up screwing themselves because they made the Irish stronger than anyone could ever imagine. Unfortunately, they're all around the world, which is, there are hundreds of times for Irish around the world as there are in Ireland. So it just it's a hard story to tell, but I think it's probably shared with other cultures as well. The African American community certainly can empathize with a lot of that, and people forget about that. That how many similarities there are. The Irish population is very high, but 38% of African Americans are of Irish descent. That's a high number in America, 38%, and that's from the census. So it's people that self-identified as being of Irish descent. So we're here to stay, and things like the paper are ways for us to preserve that heritage, to share it. And what really concerns me is that all these places I talked about that nobody's talking about, their heritage is disappearing because nobody's talking about it. And our goal is to not let that happen.
And just to kind of wrap it all up, what would you say is your favorite or like most meaningful thing to you about being in the Irish community?
It's easy to say the friendships, and that's certainly true, but that's just a one word to try and describe a multi-tributary river or tree. There's so many parts of it, from the music. I do love the music. I've always have, and the festivals really was a way for that to really explode for me. I love the stories, the ballads. I love writing stories about them. Unfortunately, I can't sing, or maybe fortunately. So I write. I would love to continue that tradition of the bards, and that's more of me. I do a lot of spoken word presentations because I can't sing. But I talk about them. And, we did a series on the 1916 200th anniversary of the Rising. 100th anniversary of the Rising. I do a lot of things about the Irish in America and the music and the Troubles. My second last book was about the 1980s Troubles and what led to that. And it's always a continuous story, of course. Some of the names keep popping up, and new people step in as they get tired of being beat up. But it's history of the Troubles. So, and how the music really told that story. And that's how the story got from Ireland when people were trying to shut down education, land ownership, any of those things. It's the songs that told the story, that preserved the history that was trying to be obliterated. And I think the music has always been a huge part of it. With the paper, I'm able to go to a lot of places. I'm able to do a lot of things to help people, as people helped us. When my dad came to America, he didn't know a lot of people. People helped him. Our effort is to return that to others. And that's why we give so much to the local and national charities, try to help them. Being Irish is a part of that. Being Irish it's more important what you do for others than it is what you do for yourself. Yourself will take care of itself. Help other people. Some is Catholic faith, but I think that I would feel that way with my parents, whether we're Catholic or not, that our job is to help others. And that's why we're put here. Nobody can do anything on their own. Nobody can do it all by themselves. We got to help each other. And I've been more than blessed in that with paper, with all of our writers, with you coming on board. We've been blessed with some fantastic talent. And we want to make sure that we give them the opportunities to expand that talent and expand their input too. That's part of what we're supposed to be doing anyway.
And that's fantastic.
Did I talk you to death?
No.
No? All right, good. Well, I'm so glad you joined our team. I think that you're going to enjoy it as long as you do it. I know that your career is out in front of you, but hopefully you'll get some good learning opportunities here with us. And all of our team has done that. We've all learned so much every day, still continue to learn. And it's because people like you that, as I said, we have to get younger. And you're as young as we want to go, probably, as far as legally able to work and those kinds of good things. But hopefully it will help you with your journalism career going forward, that you can be involved in the kind of this stuff and learn things but having an impact. These projects have been on my mind for getting all of our staff interviewed. I'm glad you're taking that on and doing that. and you're taking a load off of my mind of things that I have to do, but you're also hopefully finding it to be a good experience and telling other people. You become a brand ambassador for us, which all of our folks are, to say, hey, maybe this company is a little bit different. Maybe this company is more focused outward rather than inward. And there's nobody getting rich off the paper, unfortunately, maybe. But we're all here. We're continuing, and to be blessed with a community that Cleveland's not a huge city, where I live in Cleveland. But to say that it can support its own newspaper, that's amazing, and we're very fortunate. So glad to have you on board.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. It's such a great experience just interviewing each of the whole practice in just interviewing people is just, I think, going to be a very useful skill going forward.
Yeah, and there's no question. And journalism is changing, as I'm sure you're seeing every day. The 80-some% of all social media consumption is on video. So we know that the print edition may be around for a long time or greatly reduced at some point. Digital is where it's going. We know that. Anybody knows that video, if you want to call it digital, to encompass all that, social media and video and website and all that. Our website has just boomed in the last 2-3 years, and we redid the whole thing 6 months ago, maybe back in March. Well, I guess it's longer than 6 months, but that's where it's going, and that's what we have to do. That's why we're doing this on interview, maybe not as traditional on video, because the interview is going to go with all the other interviews and showing people who we are, and it's not just some blank name. Oh, there's a paper. Yeah, I don't know who's on it. We want you to know who our people are. We want you to communicate with them. We want you to engage with them. Follow our Facebook and Instagram and all those good things. But the website is eventually going to become a library. And when I say, well, who was St. Patrick? Yeah, there's a lot of stories, some of them true, some of them not. But that's our goal too, to be authentic, to have a library on the website, the iIrish.us website, saying, this is St. Patrick. So when someone reads it, they'll say, well, we know this to be true. It's not, well, St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland. Well, no, he didn't. There were no snakes in Ireland. But it's a parable. Like Jesus told, all of his teachings were in parables. It's a parable saying he drove evil out of, and snakes are awfully, usually represented as evil. Slytherin or maybe a different category in Harry Potter, but it's the same idea of representing something as evil, and he drove the evil out of Ireland. He converted all of Ireland at that time into Irish Catholic faith, and eventually that changed over time, as they all do. But he was a reason that Ireland was considered Catholic, and those kind of stories, telling the truth about those stories, is an authentic resource for people, and that's our goal as we expand the website and we keep adding to it daily. Our goal is to be a resource, an authentic resource. I don't want to say expert, because there are some opinion things, and we do have plenty of opinions expressed in the columns. But his goal is to be authentic, true. What is our history? We always try to preserve, promote, and present that history in a positive light. We're a celebratory magazine. We don't talk, and I mean, I'm not trying to be flip, but I could not care less about somebody's divorce or those types of things. And you're never going to see that in there. Ava, we are about to get shut off.
I know, I see it. I've been watching. I'm like, oh no. Yeah.
All right. If we do get hooked up, well done. Thank you. I appreciate it. And don't forget, let me know what I can do to help you. So I have no problem calling those people and saying, hey, I need you to do this. There's not too many of them left. Let's get them finished up. And I have other ideas for things for you in the future.